So you want to know how to sharpen kitchen knives. Well, here's one that is a 10-inch blade. I'm going to show you how to sharpen kitchen knives using the Viper Sharp. So stick around. One of the first things to think about when sharpening kitchen knives is how long the knife blade is. If we have a blade that is longer than 8 inches, then I recommend using 2 clamps. That's one of the beauties of the Viper Sharp system. You can put multiple clamps on the knife and then use them as you go. And so what I can do, let's lower that. We'll get this set at the right angle, just as with any blade. You're going to figure out where you're using the majority of the length of the stone without causing any harm to the blade. And then set your stop rings there. And then the next step is to use a marker so that you can check your edge and make sure that you're sharpening at the right angle and taking the edge off. So we'll grab a marker here and just run that right along the very edge of the blade. You probably can't even see that going on. I can barely see it here. And you can use different colors if you want to. A little bit of oil on the stone. Right now I've got the 1200 grit on here, and I'm just going to use that to see if I am removing the marker all the way to the edge. Just that until you do see that it's removing the marker all the way to the edge. And then which stone you work with, what grit, really depends on where the blade is, what the condition of the blade is. So that looks like we're getting to the edge. And I'm going to go ahead and start with a 600. I don't think I need to go all the way down to 200. 400 might work, but this blade is not in terrible shape, so then you're going to use back and forth, possibly circular motions. That's usually what I default to, is a circular motion, and just give it that back and forth motion. Now you'll notice I'm doing the first half of the blade here. I'm going from the heel down here to the center of the blade, sharpening about a 4 to 5, maybe 6 inch length of the blade. There will be a little bit of overlap in the middle there when we switch to the other clamp. And I'm going to check periodically to see if I've got a burr. I do have a burr right there, not back here at the heel, not quite in the middle. And so I will work that. Forgot to get my oil on there, I need to do that. I will work that until I have the burr going the full length of the section that I'm sharpening. Some people like to turn that over before getting the burr and work the other side a bit, and that's fine. There's no exact science to this. You're removing metal. As long as you remove the metal to the point of getting a burr, the burr tells you that you're apexing the edge. That means that you're going all the way to the edge, to the very apex, to the very, very edge And that's what creates sharp. If you're not going all the way to the edge, then you're not sharpening the blade, even if you're removing metal. So we'll pull that, or flip that over and do it on the other side here. It's the backward motion pulling away from the blade that creates the burr. That's why I like to do the back and forth motion, because then I'm getting that burr created, so I know that I'm going all the way to the edge. And I will change directions at times so that I'm pulling more. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on this blade either. I'm moving it here using the clip to do this back and forth motion, but I am not pushing. You don't want to push down on the blade. Just let the stone, the weight of the stone, do the work. That's all that's needed. Test again. Right here we've got a burr back there. All the way up. So it's really just that heel. And so if I want to make sure that I'm sharpening all the way to the heel, then I'm going to do a little more work on that until I've created that burr. If you're not concerned about getting the heel of the blade sharp, then you don't have to worry about that. Just depends on how much you want sharp. Pull that out of the way. We'll flip it over and do the other side again. You can hear the difference when there is a burr. That's where I'll usually, to clean off the burr, I'll use the ball guide. So see if you can hear this. You can certainly feel it. And then once that burr's gone, you've got a little bit different sound, a little bit different feel to the blade as the stone glides along the blade. Very quickly going to a burr now. So we know we've apexed, we've done a good job getting the right angle and getting to the apex of the blade. So with this half of the blade, I'm done sharpening. So I'm just going to do these final strokes. Now when you do this, these cleanup, we're taking this and using most of the edge, but I don't want to come up on top of the blade and scratch that blade. So when I get to the end of that stone, I'm pulling it up away from the knife. Again, no pressure here, just the weight of the stone to do those cleaning strokes. Now let's move to the other half of the blade. So we move it up to the other clamp there, the second clamp. Same thing. This is a very thin blade, so you will see a little bit of movement. You can even see it in the tip there, so I might have to be even more careful about maybe even lifting that stone a little bit, or even putting my thumb underneath it, because that blade is so thin it is flexing. You'll see that with fillet knives as well. So I do want to get all the way to the edge, so just lifting that a little bit will do that, because simply the weight of the stone will cause a little bit of flex in there. And that flex will pull the apex away from the stone, from the sharpening. We're getting a burr here, but not out there at the tip yet, which is where it's flexing away from me. Might have been good to put that clamp even a little bit further out. With such a thin blade there. Do what you have to keep the edge where it needs to be, and if you feel like moving the blade would be beneficial, then do it. If you're part way in here, and I might do that. See how I feel here. I feel like we're still getting there, so I'll test it a bit. See if we're creating the edge that we want. As long as we're sharpening, that's really all that matters, is that we're getting it sharp. So those final strokes are going to clean that burr off of there. Tighten that in a different position there. Now this is just with the 600. I can go 1200 after this if I'd like. But before I do that, I'm going to test the sharpness of this. Another reason I like the design that I was able to come up with for the Viper Sharp with a removable clamp. I can take that out completely from the system and test it without losing my angle. And that feels pretty good from heel to tip. So it's pretty sharp. Now you might want to leave off at just the 600 grit. Like I say, if you want to refine it and go a step further, you can take that off. Actually, let's clean that. You can take that off and use the 1200 just to get a real fine edge. And at this point, we don't need to create a burr anymore. We know we're apexing. So we can just do some of those one direction strokes here. Simple one direction passes. Lift up at the end so you're not coming over the top of the blade. Swap to the other side, tip of the blade. Remember to try and use as much of that stone as possible when you're sharpening. Front of the stone to the back of the stone as you're moving forward. So it's not just this kind of a motion, but rather this motion. Get a clean rag now and then as you fill it up with filings. And then run your final test. And it is sharp all the way to the tip, which is important to verify that you're getting that sharpness, not just at one part of the blade, but all the way along the blade. nothing's catching. That's how you sharpen a kitchen knife.